Okay, so first question out of protocol is, may you please say your first and last name and spell it out along with your position title you'd like to be addressed as.
Oh, sure. My name is John Walz, Johnwalz, as in zebra. And position title, you can just call me John. So.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. So, John, let's get right to it. As a challenger, why do you believe that you're better than Smith, and why do you believe that he needs to be replaced as of right now?
Well, I tell you what, I watch how our representatives vote, and I've always done that ever since I was in high school. And I tell you, in 2023, I hadn't even really thought about running at all. It's been an aspiration I've had for a very long time. But in 2023, when Adrian Smith voted for that first continuing resolution, I was just, well, in whatever, 12 months prior to that, he had voted to increase the debt ceiling. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, if he votes for another continuing resolution, I may just go ahead and throw my hat in the ring. And so he did. And so I went through a lot of prayer and discernment, and I decided this is where God wants me to be. But the continuing resolutions are one thing. What he does is, Adrian's been campaigning on, getting rid of the Biden-Pelosi agenda. But every time he votes for a continuing resolution or an omnibus bill or the increase in the debt ceiling, he just funds that same thing that he's campaigning to get rid of. And that's one thing. I mean, I've sat down and I've studied his voting history over the course of the last 17 years. And he's voted no less than 15 times for the surveillance of us private citizens, including here just last week or the week before again. And of course, they went ahead and excluded themselves. Congress did. So he's voted, he votes for foreign aid, giving our kids, our grandkids, our great-grandkids money to other countries. We can't afford it. We're $35 trillion in debt, another $20 trillion spoken for. He's got no less than 13 votes for at least $4 trillion in welfare. He supports thought crimes and indefinite detainment. 20, at least 24 votes for undeclared wars, or to refuse to bring our troops home from undeclared wars. And this AUMFs and these NDAAs, and promotes the federalization of the police. And I mean, it just, there's so many things, and it's not sustainable for a free republic like we're supposed to be. And so, since nobody else had jumped into this race that I felt that I could really get behind, I thought, well, we're in the 59th minute of the 11th hour, and our country, we're on the cusp of not existing anymore. We've got one foot across the threshold in hell, the other one's on a banana peel, and if people don't step up, all's lost for our kids and our grandkids. And that's really what that's really what instigated and drove that decision to go ahead and jump into this race.
Okay, and you mentioned kids and grandkids. Let's on to the next question. So UNL today, Columbia, and other universities, pro-Palestine protests, college campuses across America, with America standing with Israel. And so, what would you like to see the U.S. do next?
See who do next, Gary?
What the U.S. would, what do you want to see the U.S. do next, and what are your thoughts on these pro-Palestine protests?
Well, I think these pro-Palestine protests, I think those are politically motivated, and I think they're funded by the establishment. What the U.S. should be doing pertaining to Palestine and Israel and Hamas, and the first thing all of this could have been prevented if we didn't go ahead and give all these billions of dollars to Iran, because Iran is funding this stuff. And so it's like we're funding both sides of this war here. Not like it is. That's what we're doing. And who benefits from that? the establishment, the military industrial complex, those are the ones benefiting from this. So the first thing that we need to do is immediately cut off any funding, any money going over to Iran or Palestine or I'm sorry, I'm losing my track. My thing's going off here, but we need to quit. We need to quit sending our money and our kids' money, grandkids' money overseas. We just need to stop doing that. I support Israel. I support Israel on an individual level, but this is something that's very important. We have a constitution, and our constitution was the federal government was giving very specific enumerated powers by the states. And so our federal government has to operate within a very narrow lane of those specific enumerated powers. And anytime they operate outside of that lane, it's unconstitutional. It's unconstitutional spending. It's unconstitutional federal overreach. And foreign aid is one of those things that are unconstitutional. And the other thing about this is and I hear rumblings. Since I jumped into this campaign, I don't get to read many articles or listen to podcasts and things like I normally do, but I hear rumblings about military intervention as well. And this is one thing that is absolutely critical in accordance with our Constitution, is the only ones that can declare war is Congress. And Congress, through these AUMFs, they go ahead and they are shirking their responsibility to declare war, which is the only way that we really can get our military involved in any of these conflicts. And they're shirking that responsibility and giving that to an individual. And right now, I look at that individual that's in office as a pure tyrant. And it doesn't matter whether it's just Biden or any president. When you give that responsibility to an individual, they can corrupt that responsibility. They can corrupt well, how do you say it? That usurpation of powers, and they can do it for their own political benefit, their own personal benefit, or whatever. So that's where I stand on that. So,
okay, and how much should the U.S. aid in foreign wars? How involved should they get?
The United States has never been designed to be a global policeman, and so unless it's directly affecting the United States and there is a declaration of war, the United States should not be involved at all.
Okay, and what are your thoughts on the Biden EV mandate, and as well as your thoughts on there not being excuse me, I got a message as well on there not being a flex fuel mandate as well.
Well, somebody show me in the Constitution where the federal government has any jurisdiction over environmental, over vehicles, or anything like that. It doesn't exist. So this federal overreach, it needs to go away.
Okay, and what are your thoughts on the Republican frontrunner for president not accepting the results of 2020? What are your thoughts on that?
I tell you what, I'm an engineer by trade, and I know how machines can be programmed. And I've read a lot about this here topic. I've watched a lot of the documentaries about this topic, and I firmly believe, I am 100% convinced that 2020 election and multiple elections but prior to that, there has been a lot of fraud, a lot of manipulation. It's been stolen, and it should have never been certified.
Okay, and to switch gears a little bit, where do you stand with abortion? Should it be states' right or a federal law of some sort?
The Declaration of Independence, the very first right that the Declaration, which is one of our very first founding document, the very first right that it lists is the right to life, that God gave us a right to life. And so once conception happens, you have a life. And it doesn't matter which level of government it is. The role of government is to protect our rights. And so whether it be federal or state or local, they all need to be protecting life from that moment of conception.
Oh, one second, I'm getting another phone call. Sorry.
I understand.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's fine. If I can, I'll expound a little bit on your last question here. Um, I've been talking with the Nebraskans Embracing Life here for probably about a month here, and I don't know if it happened. I know when I was talking to David here last weekend, they intended to be finished with this here, but this is an initiative that's coming out for the state of Nebraska, an initiative to amend the Constitution that is a true pro-life initiative to protect life from the moment of conception. And so on top of that, one of the things that I'm working on right now, and this is all outside of the campaign, is I'm trying to build a coalition of organizations and individuals because next week I want to have a media conference. And what I want to do is I want to call on the churches to engage in political discourse within their congregations, because our founders our they envisioned our churches and our pastors as being an important instrument in educating in educating their congregations on all issues, including political issues. And so if you don't know about the bookmarks that our campaign was putting into missals or hymnals at churches, it kind of blew up. And I think NTV did a news segment on it. But I did get some pushback from some of the pastors in which we were putting some bookmarks, and I responded to them because what they said is, they're under the supposition that, the church and the government are supposed to be separate or are separate. And that's a total fabrication that the Supreme Court made, I think, in like 1947. But they're afraid of losing a tax exempt status. So when I responded back to that pastor, I said, when is the proper time to politic in the church? And I went down through a whole list of things that have happened because of the church's silence. And that includes, should the church politic in church before the Supreme Court fabricates a separation of church and state? Should the Supreme Court engage in political discourse before they throw God out of our schools? How about before they legalize abortion. Well, how about, before look at what they did during this 2020 and this pandemic. They shut down churches. Shouldn't the church have been very vocal about that? Their primary concern is the spiritual salvation of their congregation, not any kind of temporal punishment. And so that's on my website. If you went to megawaltz.com, up in the top right corner, you can look at that bookmark tab and you can read the response to that pastor's email to me. Anyway, next week we're going to be doing this media conference and this coalition. We're going to be calling on churches and pastors to engage in that political discourse in the congregation, because had they been doing that for the last 8 or 10 decades, I do not believe that our country would be in the position that it is right now. And so.
Okay, and I would like your thoughts on the situation surrounding the Speaker of the House, as Taylor Greene looks to push out Mike Johnson not long after Kevin McCarthy had been removed.
It's like I said, I haven't read many articles. I have been monitoring what's going on with the Congress a little bit. I usually just scroll down through headlines, and that's the news I get anymore, because I'm on the campaign. I'm campaigning 14, 16 hours a day. But I tell you this, I am disappointed with Mike Johnson. When he was first elected as Speaker, I had a lot of hope and I had a lot of optimism. But with funding Ukraine and this renewing these FISA courts and the continuing resolutions that he's pushed through, the omnibus bill that he's pushed through, it's been extremely disappointing to see, because we had the same exact thing with Kevin McCarthy, and I was hoping to see a big change, and it has not happened. So.
Okay, and in your opinion, how do we balance our trade partnership with China while at the same time not really trusting the government?
Trusting the Communist Chinese government?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the Communist Chinese has proclaimed the United States their #1 enemy for many, many decades. And for us to crawl into bed with them like we have it's not very prudent. And it's not prudent at all. And this is one of the things that really bothers me about our current representative, is he's a big advocate for free trade. And so I look at free trade, I look at government regulation, compliance costs, the regulatory red tape. These are the things that are destroying small town America. They're destroying family farms. They're destroying small town America. Because what we've got now is we've got these large corporations that are lobbying our representatives to create all of this regulation and these compliance costs and the regulatory red tape, and mom and pop business, whether it be, your local meat locker, your family farm, whatever, they can't overcome these costs. They can't overcome the cost of compliance, and they can't navigate through the regulatory red tape. No matter what you do, they're going to catch you on something if they want, right? So you got all these costs that mom and pop and this family business, American businesses have to overcome. And then these large corporations, they're lobbying our representatives again for free trade. And like I said, our current representative is a huge advocate for this. And so now we're bringing parts and products and commodities in from countries like China, communist countries, that are producing this stuff with slave labor in the absence of all of these compliance costs that American businesses and family farms have to overcome. And then we expect them to compete against all of these extremely low cost and incidentally low quality parts and products, commodities coming in from other countries. And like I said, it is destroying small town America. It's destroying family farms. And so on. What are the results of that? And then not only that, we go ahead and we're allowing our number one enemy. We are their self-proclaimed number one enemy. We're allowing them to buy all kinds of property, whether it's real estate, whether it's corporations, whatever here in the United States. We're exposing ourselves. And so we're at a point right now where there's 4 corporations that are controlling 80-85% of our meat packaging. And it's a scary proposition, because we're centralizing that so it can be controlled so much easier. Our founding fathers and myself, we believe in subsidiarity, which is the more local the control is, the more local, whether it's whether it's government, whether it's producing, manufacturing, whatever, the better off everything's going to be. The local people know better how to manage themselves than somebody down in Washington, D.C. that's 2,000 miles away, and especially somebody that's 8,000 miles away across the ocean. So, but I guess, what was your question, Gary? Did I answer your question? I don't remember. So.
Oh, you did definitely, yes, sir. You
Okay.
did. And actually, the final question I have for you is your thoughts on the state Republican Party backing many of the challengers instead of the incumbents. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm most grateful, because I'm one of those candidates that they did back. I've got the endorsement of the state GOP, and I don't have an exact count, but I think it's between 30 and 40 county GOPs that I've got their endorsement as well as many other organizations. And I'm very grateful for that. I look at it from this standpoint here. In order to get the state endorsement, they have a process that you have to follow through, and you have to request that endorsement. And so I did. I went through that process. And I know for a fact, I know firsthand that there were people that were calling Adrian Smith's office. I don't know if they ever spoke to him directly, but they were essentially begging him to submit a request for endorsement, and he just refused. Now, I don't understand why. It seems to me that it's a whole situation where you've got an established politician that's been in office it'll be 18 years at the end of this term. And to not ask for the people that he represents endorsement it's very alarming to me. And I scratch my head. I don't quite understand why he didn't do that. So that's really the only thing I can say about that. I guess the question that you should do is you should present that question to Adrian Smith. Why didn't you request the endorsement from the people you represent? So.
Okay, and well, John, that's all the questions I have for you, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your, I'm pretty sure, very busy schedule to have this Zoom interview with me.
Well, I appreciate that, Gary. If you don't mind, I would like to say something else. So,
Yes, sir.
And this is my message to, this is how I feel about it. It's a message to everybody. And towards the end of December, I sent out that formal announcement for this campaign. And there were 4 things on that announcement that I think are crucial in order to save our country. And that first thing is we've got to get down on our knees, and we need to implore God's intercession. Without God's blessing, every other effort is a futile effort. Our country will be lost. The second thing is I cannot encourage anybody enough to learn why our country was founded, why our Revolutionary War happened, where our rights come from, and what the roles of government are. We need to understand that our rights come from God. We are a Judeo-Christian country, and all the levels of government exist to protect our God-given rights. The third thing that we need to do is we need to learn, and we need to understand who the enemies of our country are. You brought up the Communist Chinese. The communists are a big part. They're an enemy of this country for many, many decades, centuries. We need to understand who the enemies of the country are, whether it be the communist, the globalist, who are typically one and the same, radical Islam. We need to understand what their plans are, because they're all very vocal about it. They don't try to hide how they're going to destroy our country. They publish it all the time. And it doesn't take a whole lot of digging to realize this and to find it. And so if we understand why our country was founded, we understand, where our rights come from, what the roles of government are, we know what we're supposed to be fighting for. Then if we understand who the enemies of the country are and how they're trying to destroy it, we know how to fight against it. And then the fourth thing that we need to do at every single level of government, we need to elect people into office that are going to adhere to the Constitution. The Constitution is the law of the land. And a lot of people, some people talk about, yeah, I'm a constitutionalist, but I want this here because it benefits them personally. Well, we can't ask for something that benefits us personally and then say we're going to, everything else is unconstitutional, be adamantly opposed to it. You're either constitutionalist or not. And I look at it from this standpoint. We've got our Constitution, the law of the land. The federal government has very specific enumerated powers that they have to operate within. And if we don't operate within those specific enumerated powers, then that Constitution, the law of the land, just becomes just a piece of paper with some recommendations. And then it's subject to the interpretation of whoever's got the most money and the most power to manipulate it for their own personal gain. So we have to stick with our Constitution. We've got to quit compromising. We need people in office that are going to hold the line and protect our liberties, protect our rights. That's about it. So.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you for that final statement.
I appreciate that, Gary.
Yes, sir. Appreciate your time once again. Thank you so much, John. And yeah, we'll probably keep in touch as time goes on, if I have more questions or anything like that.
Well, I tell you what, give me a call on May 15th after we win the primary. We can talk.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, Gary. Take care and God bless you.
Yes, sir. God bless you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye now.